even further once we have our little shape. Mine is growing.
And we can pretend that we're in an early childhood circle. And while we're working with our hands, we can open up our ears and our hearts and hear a story. You know, there's a theme, obviously, that's going here. We have these four voices that created our sacred space today, these four stages of the butterfly, right? The four seasons. We just finished Epiphany. And what's ahead, right? We're moving toward this cross quarter time, this intermediary time between the winter solstice and the spring equinox. And so what happens in the garden then, right? It's still this time of uncertainty and promise. And so while we were thinking about doing this craft and telling a little story, I was going to bring one that had these elements of the four seasons in them and tied into the three kings. But then sometimes you just have to, a little butterfly will come in or a little bird and whisper in your ear. And so yesterday I thought, no, you know what? I feel like I want to go forward. I want to go toward this cross quarter time, which happens next week, right? The beginning of February, 1st and 2nd of February. So that midpoint time. And so this is a little glimpse into Brigid, the alchemical triple goddess of the four fires and the purifying waters, which give birth to healing. A long time ago, nigh the beginning, by the waters of a sacred well, at the first crack of pink in the young morning of the cross quarter, between winter and spring, at the very threshold, the goddess Brigid slipped into the world, and the waters of the world rippled with joy. Up rose a column of fire out of the head of the new goddess that burned to the very sky. Brigid reached up and broke away a flaming plume from her crown and dropped it on the ground before her. There it leapt and shone, creating a new hearth. Then, from the fire of her hearth, Brigid used both hands to draw out a leaping tongue of heat, swallowed it, and felt the fire burn straight to her heart. There stood the goddess, fire crowning her head, fire leaping inside her heart, glowing and shooting from her hands and dancing on the hearth before her. The waters of the sacred well quickened as Brigid built a chimney of brick about her hearth. Then she formed a roof of thatch and walls of stone. So it was that by the waters of the sacred well, the goddess built the forge in which she keeps the four fires, which have served the world evermore. Now to the fire of Brigid's hands baked the craft of bending iron. Now to the fire of Brigid's hearth and the waters of her sacred well came the healing potions, teas, and tinctures. And out to the fire on Brigid's head flared out writing and poetry. And out of the fire in Brigid's heart spread the warmth of compassion. The word of the gifts of Brigid's fire traveled deep and wide. People flocked to learn from Brigid the secret of using the fire to soften iron and bend it to the shape of their will. The people called it smithcraft and made wheels, pots, and tools that did not break. And all the medicine plants of the earth were gathered and brought to the house of the goddess. With their leaves, flowers, barks, and roots, they offered themselves to the waters of her sacred well. And Brigid made healing brews. She gave a boy with weak teeth an infusion of dandelion root. She gave a young woman the decoction of raspberry leaf to help her womb carry a child. An old bent man took from Brigid wintergreen bark for his ache and black cherry juice for the gout. And she gave comfrey to a girl with a broken leg and blue cohosh to another to bring her moon blood without pain. Brigid infused motherwort, licorice root, and dried parsley for a woman who was becoming a crone. Cup a day, said Brigid, that you stay supple and strong. The people were healed and wanted Brigid's recipes. But we can't remember which plants for which healings, where to gather them or how long to steep them, he told Brigid. And the fire on Brigid's head blazed bright, and she took up a blackened stick and made marks with it on a flat piece of bark. These are the talking marks, she said. They are a way to remember what you don't want to forget. The talking marks also let people write down the stories of her wisdom. And here's one that fits for us today. Once, two men came to Brigid. Both had a terrible case of leprosy. Bathe yourself in my well, said Brigid to the first man. And so it was that every place the healing waters touched, the man's skin turned whole again. Now bathe your friend, said Brigid. Repulsed, the man backed away from his friend. I won't touch him, he said. Aye, then you're not truly healed, said the goddess. And with that truth revealed, the first man's leprosy returned, and the goddess herself bathed and healed the second man. And if you return to me with compassion, she said to the first man, there you'll find your healing. Thank you, Brigid, for the smithcraft of your forge, the soothing, healing teas, and the talking marks, and for the warmth of compassion. May we use it wisely to prepare for growth and renewal, awakening the spirit within.
Thank you, Hazel. So hopefully everyone